A 6-shot lead gone in 9 holes. A defending champion, 2 balls in the water in under 5 minutes. A 46-year-old written off as finished, charging like he was 25 again. One guy signed a scorecard and lost the Masters on his birthday. Another holed a chip from 140 feet that broke the world #1 in half. A ball that paused on the lip of the cup for almost 2 full seconds. A wedge hooked 40 yards out of the trees. A 4-iron snap-hooked into the water that ended a legend, and every single one of these happened in the same place. Augusta National, the Masters, and the days everything fell apart. This is 10 times Augusta National went completely insane. If you've ever watched the Masters, you know the feeling. Sunday at Augusta just isn't like other Sundays. The greens are quicker, the roars are louder, and somehow, the most prepared players in the world keep falling apart on the same 9 holes. That's not a coincidence. Augusta does something to people. These are the 10 times it completely lost its mind. It started in 1935, only the second Masters ever played. A 33-year-old named Gene Sarazen steps onto the 15th tee 3 shots behind Craig Wood, and Wood is already up at the 18th. Tournament's basically over. Then a roar comes up from the 18th green. Wood just birdied. His playing partner, Walter Hagen, turns to him and goes, "Well, Gene, that looks like it's all over." Sarazen's got 235 yards to the green. Water in front, tight lie, heavy, cold air. He pulls a 4-wood. The ball comes off low, lands just short of the green, bounces once, bounces twice, and disappears into the cup. A 2 on a par 5. 3 shots erased in one swing, and almost nobody saw it. The gallery had already drifted off to watch Wood finish. Bobby Jones was on a knoll nearby. He started to say, "He hit a great spoon there." Then he stopped himself and said, "That was the most magnificent shot I've ever seen." Sarazen tied Wood, beat him the next day in a 36-hole playoff, and put the Masters on the map forever. The papers called it the shot heard round the world. 90 years later, nobody has made a double eagle on the 15th since. That whole mythology of Augusta, the idea that anything can happen here, it started right there. Now jump forward to 1968. Easter Sunday. A 45-year-old Argentine named Roberto De Vicenzo wakes up on his birthday and starts playing the round of his life. He holes his approach on the first for eagle. 5 more birdies follow. He's right in the lead. On the 17th, he sticks an iron to 4 feet and makes another birdie. But a huge roar goes up from the 15th. Bob Goalby has just eagled, and his playing partner, Tommy Aaron, gets distracted. He's keeping De Vicenzo's scorecard, and in the chaos, he writes a 4 on the 17th instead of the 3 Roberto actually made. De Vicenzo bogeys 18 and walks off the green stunned. A green-jacketed member rushes him toward the press room. He scribbles his name on the card without looking at it. That signature ended his Masters. The rule back then was brutal. A signed scorecard with a higher score had to stand. Roberto shot a 65. The card said 66, Goalby won by 1. No playoff, no fix. On his 45th birthday, on Easter Sunday, he lost the Masters to a pencil mark. He didn't blame Aaron. He didn't blame Augusta. He stood in front of the cameras and said, "What a stupid I am to be wrong here." Just one sentence, and it became one of the most haunting quotes in the history of the sport. But Augusta wasn't done. 1986. Something happens that nobody believed at the time, and people still struggle to process now. Jack Nicklaus is 46 years old, hasn't won a major in 6 years, hasn't won anything in 2. He's 161st on the money list. An Atlanta writer had just published a column calling him washed up. Jack taped it to his fridge. He starts the final round 4 shots back. His son Jackie's on the bag. Nobody's paying attention. Then he birdies 9, then 10, then 11, then he eagles the 15th, and the crowd noise just starts rolling through the pines. Jack said later he literally couldn't hear anything. The sound was just deafening. He nearly holes his tee shot on 16. As the ball leaves the club face, Jackie says, "Be good." Jack doesn't even look up. He just goes, "It is." Then comes the 17th, 11 feet for birdie. Jack stands over it, strikes it, and as the ball starts toward the cup, Vern Lundquist lets it breathe and says, "Maybe?" "Yes, sir." Jack lifts his putter to the sky. He's got the lead. Pars 18, walks off, and waits. Greg Norman comes to the last hole needing par to force a playoff and blocks his approach badly. Bogey. Nicklaus, at 46, just won his 6th green jacket and his 18th major. Final round, 65. Back 9, 30. It's still considered the greatest Masters Sunday ever played, but here's what most people forget. While Jack was charging, somebody else was breaking. Seve Ballesteros, world number 2, 2-time Masters champion. He'd eagled the 8th. He'd eagled the 13th. He was so confident he literally shook his brother's hand on the 13th green like the tournament was already over. He comes to the 15th with a 1-shot lead. He's got a 4-iron in his hand. He needs to carry the water, and he quits on the shot. The ball doesn't even make it halfway across the pond. Jack, standing on the 17th tee, said he heard an odd sound from the gallery. That sound was Seve's Masters ending. Double bogey on 15, bogey on 17, done. Seve never won another Masters. Decades later, he said he still heard the splash in his nightmares. Same Sunday, same back 9. One man rises, one shatters. That's Augusta. And then there's Greg Norman. If you want to understand the way Augusta can break a person, you have to start with 1987. Norman's in a 3-way playoff with Seve and a 28-year-old kid named Larry Mize. Mize grew up in Augusta. As a teenager, he literally worked the manual scoreboards on the 3rd hole. Seve gets eliminated on the first playoff hole. Now it's just Norman and Mize on the 11th. Mize sprays his approach 140 feet right of the green. Norman is safely on. Norman is about to win the Masters. Mize takes a sand wedge. The bump and run runs along the fringe, onto the green, tracks toward the hole, and disappears. Mize starts running around the green like a madman, throwing his visor in the air. Norman, in shock, still has a putt to tie. He misses. Mize wins the Masters as the only player ever born in Augusta to do it. Norman said later, "I never once thought about him holing it. That was his curse. He never thought it could happen. Augusta did." Now jump to 1996. Norman's 41 years old, the world number 1, and he opens the Masters with a 63. He leads after every single round. He goes into Sunday 6 shots clear of Nick Faldo. A 6-shot lead at the Masters. This was supposed to be his coronation. Then it just unraveled. Bogey on 1, bogey on 4. Through the front 9, the lead is down to 3. And then comes the worst stretch of golf any superstar has ever played at a major. Bogey on 9, bogey on 10, bogey on 11. Then he steps to the 12th tee, Amen corner, and dunks it in Rays Creek. Double bogey, 4 holes, 5 shots gone. Faldo passed him without making a single birdie in that stretch. He just played pars while Norman drowned. On the 15th, Norman almost chips in for eagle. The ball stops on the edge of the cup. He falls to his knees on the green. It was the closest thing to a man physically pleading with a golf course you'll ever see in sports. He hits it in the water again on 16. Final round, 78. Faldo closes in 67. A 6-shot lead becomes a 5-shot loss, an 11-stroke swing in a single round, the biggest collapse in major history. When it's over, Faldo walks up to him on the 18th green and hugs him, just holds him there. And the only thing he could think to say was, "I don't know what to say. I just want to give you a hug." 2 of golf's biggest rivals, and one of them is just trying to keep the other from completely falling apart. That's how Norman became Augusta's permanent ghost. But the chaos kept coming. 2005. Tiger Woods is standing on the 16th green, a stroke ahead of Chris DeMarco. Tiger had pulled his tee shot left into the second cut. DeMarco's safely on, 15-foot birdie putt. The momentum is about to flip. Tiger studies the slope. He spots a faded pitch mark on the fringe, a tiny target. He lands the chip right on it. The ball takes the slope, starts rolling, and slowing, and slowing, and it stops right on the lip of the cup, just sitting there, with the Nike swoosh facing straight at the camera for 1.8 full seconds, then it drops, and Verna Lundquist's voice cracks through the noise. "Oh wow, In your life, have you ever seen anything like that? Jim Nantz called it maybe the greatest shot in the history of the game. Tiger threw his fist in the air, attempted what's still considered the worst high five in sports history with his caddy, and walked off 2 ahead. And then, because this is Augusta, he immediately bogeyed 17 and 18 and almost lost the tournament. DeMarco's chip on 18 hit the flagstick. Tiger needed a playoff to win his 4th green jacket, but nobody remembers any of that. They remember the chip, the pause, the swoosh. 5 years later, the chaos found Phil Mickelson. 2010. Phil's wife, Amy, had been battling breast cancer. His mom, too. Amy hadn't been to a tournament in nearly a year. She came to Augusta that Sunday and could barely walk. Phil's tied for the lead on the 13th tee. He pulls his drive into the pine straw, 2 pine trees between his ball and the green. Rays Creek in front. His caddy, Bones, sees the gap. Later said it was about the width of a box of golf balls. Bones tells him Choi just bogeyed, suggests laying up. Phil looks at him and says, "If I am going to win this tournament today, I am going to have to hit a really good shot under a lot of pressure at some point. I am going to do it right now." He pulls a 6-iron. The ball threads between the trees, sails over the creek, and stops 4 feet from the pin. Nick Faldo, watching on TV, had just said, "I doubt it, to be honest." Yeah, so did everybody else. Phil missed the eagle putt. Nobody cares. He shot a bogey-free 67, walked off 18, and hugged his sick wife on the green, both of them in tears. He said later, "I don't normally shed tears over wins." That hug is one of the most replayed images at Augusta, and it's because Phil refused to lay up. 2 years later, somebody else refused to lay up, in a way that defied physics. 2012 Masters, sudden death playoff. Bubba Watson against Louis Oosthuizen. Watson is a self-taught lefty who's never had a single golf lesson in his life. He'd just adopted a baby boy 3 weeks earlier. On the second playoff hole, Bubba snipes his tee shot deep into the trees right of the 10th. From the crowd, it looks like it's over. Oosthuizen is in the fairway. Bubba's in the pine straw with branches blocking the green. He sees an opening only he can see. Pulls a 52-degree gap wedge. Tells his caddy, Ted Scott, "I can hook it as much as I want." And Scott just goes, "Yeah, it's easy." He aims left of a TV tower, sets up, and hooks the ball 40 yards in the air. It curves like a baseball, drops onto the elevated green 15 feet from the pin. 2 putts later, he's the Masters champion, crying in his caddy's arms. There's a plaque on that spot now. They had to mark it. That's how impossible the shot was. Which brings us to the moment that still hurts to watch. 2016. Jordan Spieth is 22 years old, defending champion. He's been the Masters leader for 7 straight competitive rounds. That's a record. He birdies 6, 7, 8, and 9 to make the turn 5 shots clear of the field. It's a coronation. Then he bogeys 10. Then he bogeys 11. Leads down to 3. Now he's on the 12th tee. The exact same hole where Greg Norman drowned in 1996. Jordan pulls his 9-iron just slightly. The ball hits the bank, rolls back, and disappears into Rays Creek. He goes to the drop zone. He chunks the wedge, splash, water again, he drops again. Flies it long into the bunker, up and down for a quadruple bogey 7. 30 minutes. 5-shot lead to a 3-shot deficit. He turned to his caddy and said, "Buddy, it feels like we are collapsing." The scoreboard operator changed his number from red 7 to red 1 in front of horrified patrons. Spectators started folding up their chairs. His parents were wandering between holes like they were lost. And then, because Augusta does this to people, he had to put the green jacket on Danny Willett 15 minutes later, as the defending champion, while fighting back tears. Nick Faldo, who knew exactly what he was looking at, said one sentence: "This will scar him. This will damage him for a while." That's the thing about Augusta. It doesn't just hand out trophies, it changes people. A 4-wood from 235 yards, a pencil on a scorecard, a 46-year-old with his son on the bag. 2 balls in the water on a par 3. A hook from the trees. A chip that paused on the lip for nearly 2 full seconds. Every April, the best players in the world walk onto the same 18 holes thinking they've prepared for everything. And every April, Augusta finds a new way to remind them they haven't. The lead never feels safe. The pressure never lets up. And the chaos never really ends. It just waits for next Sunday.